All right. This is it. This is the end. My last attendance to you. And of course, it is Friday. And I have just read and finished grading the work that you all submitted since last night or since yesterday. So, as I reflected upon your feedback, one thing I saw, two things that I saw twice was about the way that I set up the course to require you to move through things in sequence. And I'm thinking you might have missed the one attendance where I actually showed you how to break that. And so I get that it may feel restricting, but I've found that it actually helps students know where they're at and what they need to do next. But I also get that by doing it, that also can cause that, well, I want to work on this and come back and do that. But I did show you how to do that. So sorry you missed that part of it. And then the other thing, and this one was kind of like, I understood it, but I also wanted to respond to it, was like the fact that there was a Monday and a Thursday due date, and that really messed people up. And there turns out there was like 6 items due a week. Yeah, that's true. And so I think what happens when students sign up for a short-term class, I think somewhere in their head, or maybe not, when I say that is more subconscious or maybe it's conscious, you think, well, I can get through this, it'll be less work. But it turns out it's just the opposite when you take short-term classes. And I say this for this reason, is if you take a short-term class in the future, I don't know how that instructor does it, but this class that you have now by this time pretty much finished is my normal 18 weeks pushed into 9. So if I didn't have 2 due dates a week, I'd have 1 due date a week and it would have 6 items, 6 to 7 items. So I guess my question back to you all is, would that have been the way you would have liked to have experienced a course? My thought was no, because this way it at least broke that work into chunks. But maybe the answer is there's no good way to do it. There's just understanding that when you take short-term classes that you have to adjust your own style to that, knowing that it is going to be in a compressed, which really in your mind in the future, unless you already did this, say this means more work. Now, I can come to this from my own personal experience. When I started doing graduate school, I did it through National University. My first class was a month-long class, and it about freaked me out. And what I had to realize is what I needed to adjust to be successful in that kind of environment. And the answer to that, and I succeeded. I got an A, but did I work for it? Is I worked on something every day. Now, I know not not everyone can do that. And part of this flexibility of figuring out what works for you is what online classes are about, and the ability to have a certain discipline. So even though some of you, and I saw this in the comments too, would have preferred to take this in class, I do think there is a real benefit to realizing that you can be successful in online classes. Now, not everyone was, and not everyone succeeds in every class. That's just not the way this thing is set up. But the other thing I want to tell you, I heard and I appreciate it all, but I really, and many of you mentioned this, how much you appreciated these videos. And I often wonder about that. I think it's great, and you all, for your feedback, seem to really have that connection. And somebody actually said, I won't point out any, that it was actually felt enjoyable to work on the things in this class because of the way they were set up. So there was definitely the spectrum of content. So thank you for that feedback. I'm not sure I'm teaching 15 next semester yet. There's been some changes in my schedule. I am still teaching Intro to Web, JavaScript, and Python. Those are for sure 3 classes, which, by the way, if you're interested in coding, I actually would suggest you take my CIT82, which is a 9-week, 3-unit class. Again, compressed, 2 due dates a week. It's never taught in the face-to-face 18-week mode. It's only taught in that mode, but it gives you a good introduction to web development if that's something, and some hands-on experience around coding. Speaking of which, you're gonna get some coding experience for your last lab assignment. So here's what I want to do. First, if you are unsure of any of the things I'll briefly mention now, go back and watch week 8 where I talk about the end of semester in more detail. Okay, so let's go look. At this point, right, there's only 2 items left. That last item, and if I pull over to the calendar, right, we look at it from a calendar perspective, maybe it's a little bit easier. But the JavaScript Lab, as I had said before, is a video series I create for anyone that takes CIT 15, which are a lot of students, not just you. So when I'm talking in this site, or when I'm talking in this series, just know that that's true. And you follow along. And at the end, what you'll end up with is a form that calculates basic payroll. And I say this on here, so I want to say it to you directly. The way you get all the points here is that your form actually works. When I go to the site that you create, you're going to what's called fork, basically copy my beginning code, and then I'll actually walk you through writing the code. You do not have to write code on your own. If you're somebody interested in coding, you definitely could play around with changing this. You could change the way it looks. You could add other things into it. But for the basic requirements, you have to have a working form that when I click it actually does output something into the page. Okay, and I show you at this very first assignment what that output should look like. So just know, if you submit that and it doesn't actually work, that's about 15 points off. So you want to make sure you get good working content there. You know what, hold on just a second. You know what I thought I would do as I was thinking about this is I'm going to pull up a student in this class, their output. And here's what I mean, right? So if I hit calculate, then it actually outputs some information. And importantly is the information. The one thing I want to show you that I don't think I covered in the video is, if you're not getting output and you're trying to figure out what went wrong, this Replit IT is not great about showing you errors, but here's a way you can. If you right click and you hit inspect, which by the way, this is true for all websites, okay, what you can do is come over to the console, and if you have an error, it'll be listed right here. Okay, and you can also go look at the source. Now, I'm not going to look at the source right now because it would show that, but if you look at the source, it actually will give you a red highlighting where there's an error. So it gives you a little better output. Okay, so I just want to show you that. And by the way, that was Arturo's. He did a great job. He really spent time, got it done correctly. So I hope he's okay with me at least showing his output, but not his code, because that's the part that you're supposed to write. Okay, so then last thing, okay, so I think I've gone over everything I wanted there. The last thing is the final. And again, this is taken in my IT lab. It's worth 150 points. You can calculate what your score would be based on what you got on that. Because what I need when you report is actually the number out of 150. So it just makes it a little easier if you calculate it. If not, I have to calculate it. So it just makes it a little quicker, right? So you could see how to do that. It's pretty much what we've done, except instead of multiplying each one by 50, you just take your score, right? Multiply it by, matter of fact, here, I have an example somebody gave me. Hold on. So here's how you can do that. If you got, let's say, 86%, you could multiply that by 150, because that's the points that this is worth. And then that would tell you that what you could report to me is that you got 129. And that's how, because when I enter the score, I have to enter it as what out of 150 did the student get. But you still want to create that PDF out of the My IT Lab. So when you're submitting this, you're submitting, let's just go ahead and bring it up, because you actually need to submit the PDF, right? It's in My IT Lab. Create the PDF just like you have, and you again just scroll. Once you complete it in My IT Lab, then you can do that. You'll see the score in there, and you create the PDF in there. And then when you report, just do that calculation to tell me. Okay. All right. So the other thing about this is that, remember, as I said last week, again, a little repeat here. Once we get to here, right? I wake up that morning, nothing else can be done after I look at the work and shut everything off on Friday morning. So the thing I want you to know about this schedule is that it's final. Meaning, once I wake up in the morning and I finish grading, then no other work can be done in this class. So if you get to, let's say, Wednesday and realize, oh my God, if I don't do XYZ, I'm not going to pass, right? Your time is only available until that morning that I grade. So if you're emailing me on Friday or even on Thursday night after I'm offline asking for more time, I don't do it, because this is final, right? And this is part of what I've been trying to communicate with you, the schedule, so that there is no question. So if you're working this weekend to get late work done, as I talked about last week, and how to determine what your grade is, great. Okay. But if you've waited until this point and then started and you ran out of time, don't put yourself in that situation. Really is what I would say. Just don't. Because if you come to me and say, "Hey, can I have one more day?" I'm going to say no, because that's the schedule and everybody gets the same schedule. So I understand it's just it's the way this thing ends, and I want you to know it. Okay? Okay, so let me go back over here and go back here, um, and then show you. Let me see if I got everything that I wanted to talk about. Course feedback. Yeah, I did that last week. Yep, I did that. JavaScript. Yep, I did that. Final is final. Yeah, those are the concepts I wanted to cover. So I guess I just want to say thank you, right? So thank you for taking this class. I appreciate the feedback that you all gave me. Yeah, I appreciate you telling other students if you had a good experience and you feel like they might too. Again, I'm not sure what my schedule is for next semester, but if you're on Discord, which, by the way, it's not too late to join. If you scroll back up to week 0, you will see there's an invite. And if that thing doesn't work, let me know. If you want to join our Discord community, which means my students who have taken my coding classes, the students who have taken 15 in my other classes, for about 2 years now, I've been running this, maybe it's a year. I've been running this Discord server, and so I would love to have you join that community if you haven't already. All right. Have a wonderful winter break and a great next spring semester. And peace out.